Hi everyone. Um yeah, as you might know, as you might have seen, I'm gonna do a live hand reviews. I'm doing this weekly for the ones who haven't been here before. I'm Alexandra. I'm a mid-stakes cash game player and a coach. I'm also doing some mental coaching, having some background in psychology. So yeah, if you enjoyed this video, like, subscribe to our channel, and yeah, maybe join our Discord community to get in touch and find out about our coaching. That being said, let's get into the hands. These are a mix of hands from different players I received from the community. So yeah, you can also send hands for these streams if you want to. The manager has this bug that the button covers the 3-bet size. I assume it's gonna be a standard size. I'm not sure though. We face a 4-bet from under the gun and we call. I like this. I think queens gets a bit weak to shoving these positions. I don't think it would be a blunder or anything, but I think calling is the standard option. Having a protein shake. I just came back from the gym. Okay, goes check, and we decide to check back. I'm not exactly sure about this. I think when they check here, they're going to have a bunch of ace king, maybe even stuff like jacks, ace 10, because there are supposed to be 4-bets. So I think with queens here, we do need some protection, and we can also get a decent amount of value. So I think I would prefer to go for a bet, especially if we pick a small size. I don't think checking is going to be necessarily wrong, but yeah, I also don't really expect people to check raise here or play, I don't know, put us in a lot of tough spots or anything. So yeah, because of this, I think I would mostly bet. We can check this in GTO Wizard soon. Now we face a small bet, again, an ace now is a gut shot if he has something that... We do block some bluffs, that's true, with king, queen and stuff like that, decided not to bet on the flop. But yeah, we can also just beat value here again. He can have ace 10, he can have a jack, so never folding here. River is a jack, and now he goes for a pot size bet. Yeah, I think in practice this would be very, very close. I don't think people 4-bet enough, first of all, and when they do, I don't think they take this line very often with stuff like ace king, ace queen. We do block some bluffs. If he had jacks, now that's a very strong hand. He could have tens as well that decided to check the flop. He could have some overpair, so if in order to be profitable here, we should be good around 1/3 of the times when we call. So I guess this becomes a counting combo spot. So basically, let's see, what would be the worst value combo he has here? And I think if he has kings, queens even, he can go for this line. Would he ever do this with ace jack in a 4-bet pot? I kind of doubt, but the fact that he left 7 big blinds behind makes me think he might be a recreational. But still, a pot size bet in a 4-bet pot by a recreational doesn't make me very happy. Could have some ace 4, so let's say he has over like one combos of ace 4, 3 combos of 10. It doesn't okay, maybe 2 combos of 10s, maybe 2 combos of jacks, so that's 5. Aces could be around, like, let's say 4 combos, kings around 3 combos. So we have quite a bunch of value combos until now. And what bluffs does he have here? Well, he could do this with ace king. And do we expect him to play like this with ace king very often? I don't think so, but it's still a lot of combos available. Yeah, that's why I think it's very close, but I think the spot is going to be quite underbluffed and we don't really beat value. So for those reasons, I think I would end up going for a fold. Um, Marcus asked, Marcus asked, is it better to lead flop and turn for 1/3? But we can't really lead because we're in position. Um, but yeah, I think betting flop for 1/3 and then maybe sometimes the turn and then checking back the river would be a good option. Or betting the flop, checking back the turn. Again, I don't think checking back is a mistake, but yeah, I think I prefer betting. Although, yeah, let's see what GTO Wizard thinks about this hand. Again, we need to take all these solutions with a pinch of salt because ranges starting from pre-flop are likely going to be quite different. And then the way villains and maybe us as well play post-flop is also going to be quite different. So yeah, gonna take it with a pinch of salt. Let's make here under the gun button for bet pot. Let's maybe take a second look at the ranges. Why is under the gun? Oh. Yeah, I don't think most people will have this low pocket pair, so... Yeah, this seems decent. Under the gun seems okay. I'm not sure how our student is going to 4-bet, so just gonna leave it like that. Oh, Maguska, hi. Did you enjoy the Run It Once bootcamp? How was it? Okay, and the board was 10, deuce, 3 was it? Yeah. So we see that he's already supposed to bet range on the flop, so because of this we don't really know what they check, so it's quite useless to check this hand in a solver because yeah, basically checking never happens. And when it does, we see we actually check back quite a lot. But again, we don't really know how his range looks like. It's probably going to be very, very different from let's see what the range is here. Yeah, probably that his checking range is going to be quite different from this, so I don't think it makes sense to go too deep into what the solver would do here. Let's go back to our hand. You liked Callum's session? That's good. I didn't manage to watch it because I was going on vacation on that night, so yeah. I think it's going to be emailed to us anyway, so I'd like to have another look through it. Did you receive an email after me? Thank you. Did you receive an email with the footage of the bootcamp? Again, next hand, we open cutoff with ace king, get 3-bet by the big blind, and calling here is fine sometimes, although I think sometimes we should also 4-bet this hand. I wouldn't really call all the time. I know our student might have some too passive tendencies pre-flop, so that's what I'm mentioning it. But yeah, calling from time to time is definitely fine. He goes for a small bet, which shouldn't really happen on this board. So as out of position here, your value range is constructed around maybe strong 9x and overpairs, and those hands want to put a lot of money into the pot. They don't want to start with a small bet. This is not a spot where big blind can just go for a small range bet. So, yeah, probably not the strongest reg we're facing here. this should probably be a pure call, even against a bigger size. So yeah, never folding ace king here, especially with the backdoor. Now he checks, and I think this is quite an interesting spot because on one hand we do have some showdown value and we have like worse hands in our range that we can bluff with, but on the other hand we have quite nice blockers because we do block a flush, the nut flush, and we also block aces and kings, which are going to be his best calls out of position. And yeah, we can probably get better to fold by the river. We also have some equity, so I imagine there are some reasons to check this hand, some reasons to bet this hand. I don't think I have a huge preference, to be honest. And I assume it's going to be a mixing theory as well, so whatever we do here, I don't really mind. Yeah, I guess the sizing is fine, because at least in theory, out of position shouldn't be very capped here. When a flash gets there on the turn, he is supposed to check quite often. Also, the 7 is not the greatest card for him either, so out of position is not supposed to be very capped here, therefore we can't use huge sizes. And we face a check shove, which is quite a shitty spot. I think we'd probably have to fold, just because of how big the check shove is and because of the fact that I don't think people bluff enough in these lines. I was going to say, what, this is something that can go wrong if we decide to bet compared to if we decide to just check this hand back. Sometimes we might not realize our equity, but yeah, I think in general people tend to undercheck raise the turn, so that shouldn't be as much of a concern in practice as it is in theory, but again, this is a hand that we can take a look over with the solver, and yeah, we fold, which I think is good if we take this line. So yeah, let's go back to the solver. This was big blind versus cut off 3-bet, I think, was it? Yes. Cheers, everyone. With a protein shake. Okay, so the board was... What was the board? Sorry for my fish memory. 9, 7, 3 with a flash draw. And we see big blind is supposed to use a bigger size. I would expect here to see something like 3/4. But yeah, at least half pot. Our opponent uses 1/3. Yes, this size we should probably not really fold very often. Let's look at it like this. Again, I'm not sure people 3-bet enough from the big blind, so as you see here, it should be quite a wide range and quite a polar one, including a lot of like low king x, some low jack x, 10, 7, stuff like that. So basically the bottom of our range, but the type of bottom that also has some kind of playability and high cards, because if we get called, we're gonna play a relatively big pot out of position, so we need some playability. But yeah, in general, quite a wide and polar range, and I'm not sure people in practice are going to find all those weird and unintuitive 3-bets. So that's something to keep in mind. We bet, they bet, and you see here ace king is going to be a pure call, but not only ace king, even ace jack without the backdoor flash draw, even ace 10 just with the backdoor flash draw, but you get the idea. We're calling here quite wide against this size. Expected we're not really gonna fold ace queen, but we see this one we can fold without the backdoor flash draw. Anyway, call and turn is a 7, bringing the flash. And you see now he is actually supposed to be quite careful. He needs to size down, but not only size down, the frequency of bets is also not very high here because he doesn't really have that much of an advantage anymore. He's betting a lot of random hands, you could say, on the flop, and he doesn't filter his range as much, while we do filter it by calling, and now this card is probably better for imposition. Usually flashes are better for imposition because cutoff here won't really call pre-flop a bunch of offsuit combos, while big blind will have some decent amount of 3-bet with offsuit combos. So facing a check here, we see ace king. I assumed it's going to be a mix, but apparently we just want to pure bet when we have the ace of heart. If we look at the V difference, it's not super significant. So, I mean, yeah, it is slightly significant. We won't lose a lot by checking here, so it's not a blunder. But our blockers are going back to his range. You see he's checking aces here. Sometimes he's checking kings sometimes. He's also going to flash a decent amount of flashes, even the nut flashes. So because of this, our blockers are quite good. And the other factor here is when we do bet, here it uses a very small size, we are going to get called by a decent amount of hands that we can just river a better pair against. So all these put together with the fact that we are just gonna have a good bluff on the river, that we block his very strong hands, yeah, it makes this a pure bet and not a mix as I thought. So good to learn something. We bet, and you see when we bet, even though we didn't bet as small, we bet just 1/3 here. If he finds a check raise, it's supposed to actually be very small, and this is why going all in here is a mistake, because he's just putting our whole range in such an easy spot. You see, if we put an all in here, this is not really happening, and ace king would be quite a big blunder to call it. Actually, no, it has like a very low frequency of calls with some suits, but I think in practice people are not going to find enough random check raises here, like ace jack, ace 10, king jack. So because of this, I don't think calling would be great with ace king. Imagine that, or Orca and 8A says, imagine that I'm playing cash on GG and I'm watching your stream, all of this from the comfort of my work bathroom. Degen. Yeah, the world we live in today, isn't it? Okay, well, if no one has any questions about this hand, yeah, let's just move further and see the next ones. Going back to Holder Manager. Three bet with 10, small blind versus button. Very standard 3 bet, and we flop top set, which is great. Here I would go for 3/4 or check strategy. And when we implement a polar strategy like that, top set will be mostly going for a check. So that's what our hero does here. I like this. And it goes check check. Turn is a jack, and at this point I think we should be quite polar with our bets, right? So if I bet here, I would go for a big size, and we need to be quite selective with what we want to bet. The jack is quite good for us. We're gonna have some slow plays from the flop with overpairs. So yeah, most of our value range is going to be constructed around the jack x plus. So tens here, what properties does this hand have? It kind of unblocks, so it blocks checkbacks. So if he has something like 10-9 that didn't bet the flop, or I don't know, queen 10, something like that. So when we have tens, it makes him less likely to have those hands. So those hands are mostly going to be checking back on this turn. So what this means is that when we have two tens, it's less likely that he's going to check back. And obviously it unblocks bluffs, and it also unblocks some jack X that might just go for a bet here. And it also blocks some calls, right? So because of that, holding two tens here makes it less likely for him to call our bet and more likely for him to bluff, or maybe to value bet himself if he has a decent hand. So I would go for another check here, and that's what hero does as well. We face another check, and river is a king. Now I think this spot gets quite interesting. If you think about our range, we're going to have some ace king, we're going to have some king queen, although not that much. We're not really gonna have super many king 10 combos because we don't really 3-bet only the suited ones. Those are already blocked by the board, and then we will also bet a lot of them on the flop. So this doesn't really improve our range all that much, and if it does, it improves it to something like one pair. And the other thing we need to think about is nut advantage here. So we will have some ace queen, but villain will probably have more. He's not really gonna fold any ace queen here. And even though in theory he might have to stab flop or maybe stab turn with ace queen sometimes, I think in practice people are going to have it more often than they should. So putting all this together, the fact that we don't really have a huge nut advantage here anymore, and the fact that this improves most of our range to like relatively marginal strength hands, I think we should actually use a small size here when we are betting. Yeah, he's also quite capped. So, I mean, quite capped. If he doesn't have ace queen, he doesn't have a lot of hands that just want to call a big bet. So, yeah, I think even though it looks like we have a strong hand, if we put every factor together, going small here would make more sense. So we go for a 3/4 bet, which I guess ace king here would probably be worth this size, maybe some king queen too, so I don't mind it. I would probably use half pot or 40. Hola, Jose. Nice seeing you on the stream. How are you? So yeah, I would have like maybe a slightly smaller size, and now he goes for a shove. Now, I think this is very, very worrying, because as we mentioned already, he probably has close to 16 combos of ace queen here, and it's also a texture where it's very, very unintuitive to bluff. And do we ever beat value? I don't think he's gonna start doing this with king jack on this board. He might raise king jack, but I think he's probably going to use a small size. So yeah, as nitty as it might seem to some of you, I would just go for a fold here. But our hero doesn't fold and gets knackered by his queen, which is what I usually expect to see happening here, unfortunately. Maybe if you play high stakes against Linus, yeah, cold, but in reality, against most people, I don't think that's the best idea. But let's see if our friend Chitio Wizard agrees with us. Just going to go quickly through this hand. 3-bet, small blind versus button, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Board is 10, 8, 4, maybe not exactly these suits, but whatever, let's not waste too much time. You see, big bet or check strategy, and yeah, tens are quite often a check, although not a pure check. Go for a check, and he's already, you see, supposed to bet not that often with his queen, but I still think this is the solver is betting more often than real people, and he's supposed to bet quite mergy for thing value and protection, but it goes check check and turns the jack. Check, check, turns a jack. And now, as I said during the hand analysis, if I do go for a bet here, I would go for a big bet. And I actually see tens are checking here more often than betting. Sorry, they are betting more often than checking. I would have expected that our check frequency with tens here is a bit higher for the reasons I mentioned, but apparently not. Although it's still indifferent, so you see the same EV of betting and checking, so we can say this is a mistake or anything. And now again, he should bet a decent amount of ace queen, so I think this is going to change the, the reality of this sim is going to be quite different than what it is in practice. And now let's see what's happening on the king river. So yeah, ace king, king queen are worth a 3/4 pot size bet, but surprisingly we never really bet tens here. Let's see why that is. That's how we can see why that is, by analyzing his response. So when we bet, he doesn't really have a lot. He does have some calls with 10x, but not that many. And if we check, okay, I guess we unlock a lot of bluffs that we want to get value from, such as 6-5, 5-4, 7-6, deuces that are supposed to bluff here. Yeah, so we unblock bluffs and we do block some calls with 2 tens, but again, not something I would look super deep into. In practice, I think people will very likely underbluff this spot. So, yeah, I wouldn't care betting myself a bit more often to get more value. You see already the EV is quite similar. So yeah, we decided to go for a bet, and he shoves. And even in a solver, what? Okay. So this call is losing 73 big blinds per 100 in a solver, which is quite shocking to me, because that probably means in reality it's losing even more. And I think this hand is a great example of, we shouldn't call based on our hand strength. We should actually think about ranges, how they interact, and if this hand is that's the first question we should ask ourselves in a bluff catching spot. Is this hand a bluff catcher or not? Because if it's a bluff catcher, it means we don't really beat any value. And I think that's the reality in this spot. Would he shove something like king jack? Not really. Can he have eights here? I think it's very unlikely, because even eights I might not want to shove, and they are probably gonna bet flop or bet turn. So he doesn't really have any worse value hands, meaning our hand is a bluff catcher. Is this spot likely to be overbluffed or underbluffed? And I think, 3 Broadway board, a raise on the river for the whole stack in a spot where he can actually have a decent amount of value combos is definitely going to be underbluffed, if you ask me. So yeah, this should have just been a fold. Let's see the next hand. I hope I'm showing the right window. So we open Jack 5 suited in the fly. Jack 5 suited in the small blind, big blind calls, and we see an ace king 8 flop. Here, if you look in a solver, I think it's going to recommend the 2x spot strategy. In practice, I think just going for a small range bet, which apparently Hero does. We can see Hero is from our community, plays most spots, most strategies as I would. So yeah, I think people under-raise, overfold here to a small c-bet. They're supposed to call all kinds of weird backdoors and stuff like that. So yeah, I think the EV of a range bet in practice would be much higher than in a solver, and it also helps us save mental energy, so we don't really have to worry about, you know, how we play next street, what we should bet, what we shouldn't bet. Just simplifying the spot is quite good. And now that we get to the turn, remember that we bet with our whole range on the flop. So by the turn, we are gonna start to put in big overbets with a very polar range. That's gonna mean we're gonna bet our best value combos, maybe ace queen, ace jack plus, and then our best bluffs. Because we are out of position, our bluffs will be mostly equity driven. So yeah, we're gonna bet draws, gut shots, open-handers, stuff like that, but not really trash like this. So I think this hand would pure check, especially with two hearts, because it does block some backdoor flash draws, backdoor straight draw. That would just maybe fold the turn. Goes check check, and river is a 3. So I find these spots, these bad check bad lines, quite interesting because it's just the ranges are so wide, but so that means I don't think we can bluff everything because our value range doesn't really support that. So we should be quite selective. I think having hearts is definitely not great because it blocks auto folds with miss backdoor flush draws, as I said. Not having a heart is also not great. Having a jack is also not great because it blocks other auto folds with stuff like jack 10. Yeah, jack 10, jack 9 might be in his range as well. Queen jack, and so on. The 5 though, the 5 is probably decent as a bluff. But yeah, we should be quite selective here, I imagine. And I think this hand won't really want to bluff. Now, exploitatively speaking, do we want to bluff more here? Although people do seem to overfold to bad check bad lines, here I think they already overfold on the flop. So yeah, I don't... Even though we might be able to overbluff a little bit with some combos, I don't think this is one of them. So I think I would just check here and give up, but that's not what our hero does. Okay, again, we can have a quick look over this hand in GTO Wizard. By the way, if you guys and girls are interested to send hands over for this stream, you can join our Discord community. You'll find it in the description of this video. You're going to find a link to our Discord community, and yeah, there we can get in touch, and you can also send hands so we analyze them on these streams. Now, about this hand, let me double check what the flop was. Ace king 8. So you see the solver already recommends a range bet, just gonna fully simplify it. So you see how many unintuitive hands they are supposed to call. So 6-7 offsuit, this 7-5 with a backdoor, 10-6, jack 3, all kind of stuff like that, that I do expect people will overfold here, the most of the population. And on the turn, I don't think we're gonna use this. Let's just say we overbet or check. And you see if we bet, this hand is always going to be with a flush draw, while if we look at no may hand, no draw, we are absolutely never betting. So quite an easy spot if you don't have anything or any kind of equity, just check. But then what it means is that we're just gonna end up on the river with a lot of trash. So I think it's interesting to see how do we construct our bluffing range in this spot. In order to understand how we construct our bluffing range, we would first have to understand how we construct our value range, right? Because our betting range is going to be based on our value. So we see we have a small bet here and a big bet. Mostly the small bet is constructed around king x, and even some lower pairs we can value bet thinly here. And then we have the bigger size, which is constructed around an ace or better. So yeah, this This means we can also bluff quite a decent amount. Um, let's look at no made hand, no draw, and then try to understand what we want to bluff with and what we don't really want to. So as I said, you know, this queen jack, queen 10, jack 10, queen jack, they just block too many folds in positions range. These ones, I was mentioning in the hand analysis that a jack is not really great to bluff, as you can see here. But then the 5 is quite good, so basically, because we are allowed to value bet quite thin, we are also allowed to bluff at quite a decent amount, and we want to have these low cards mostly, or a high card and a low card to bluff, and the lower they are, the more we bluff, the higher they are, the more bluffs, the more folds they block, and the less we want to bluff them. Hopefully that makes sense for everyone. If so, let's just do, so yeah, basically it was well played. I think in my first analysis I would have been a bit too passive and not find this bluff. I think in game I would just really overbluff this spot. But yeah, if I think about it quite deeply, I thought, oh, there is a really bad buzzing noise. Mason Hasty says, is it gone? I think, yeah, my phone rang. It was my dad calling me, and hopefully it's fine. Let's do one more hand, and thank you everyone. Let's do one more hand and wrap it up for today. So this is a limp pot. I don't think we need to ISO king 3 suited, and the board is ace a7. Wondering how this hand is gonna was marked and sent for a review, but let's see. Okay, we know it goes check, check, check. We turn a flush draw, and the villain here bets for a small size. Yeah, I think at this point I don't really like raising because I think we already beat all of his bluffs, and I don't want to get 3-bet or anything because it's already a paired board. We definitely have enough equity to call. I don't want to incentivize this guy to shove if he has an ace or anything, so I think I like calling, but if our hero raised here, I wouldn't say it's a blunder or anything. Don't worry, yeah, don't worry, Mason. Thanks for the feedback. I think there was some bad sound at some point, so yeah, thanks for letting me know. Okay, it goes call, 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 and on the river, we river a flush, and we face a pot size bet from, I mean, we can know he's a recreational or not, but I mean, yeah, because of the broken stack, I think we can safely assume he's a recreational. And pot size bets are often under bluff from recreationals, but still, we definitely have a very, very strong hand here. So I think it's, even on a paired board, is definitely strong enough to go for a raise. I would have liked to see maybe a bigger raise. He's saying he has a strong hand, and I don't think most of them are capable of holding a flush, a straight, or even trips here. So yeah, I would like to see a bigger size. I think they're gonna be quite inelastic. And now we face a shove, which, smooth call the turn with hearts. I would raise it to pot. His sizing is weak. Yeah, I think I agree with you. Yeah, on turn, I think I agree with you, Equity Gem. The only problem with that is the texture. Even though his size is weak, on this texture, I think we are just gonna raise and get, like, if he folds, I think it's going to be hands that we beat already. I don't think it, or we might like get value from a lower flush draw. But on ace ace x 3 ways, I think it's going to be a bit less overbluff than it is in general. On most other texture, I agree with you, and I think raising turn might be better, but yeah, here I think calling is also fine. And now we face a shove on the river, so I think this is a gross spot because obviously it's a paired board and he gets all the money in, and there's a decent amount of hands that beat us. If you think back to the river action, he also bet pot, which is quite a strength sizing tile from a recreational. But on the other hand, we never know when they just overplay a flash. So because of the recreational spaz factor and the overplay factor as well, I don't think I would ever fold an ad flash here, but I just don't love the spot. We end up calling, and let's see. Oh, wow, okay. Like this one I didn't expect. So that's the thing, like, you can beat value once in a blue moon. He can have a bluff. I assume this will be a bluff played like that. I don't think it's a value bet. I would be very, very surprised. Why not raise turn? Because again, I think the short player behind is going to be a bit more incentivized to find some shoves. We don't really want to find ourselves in that spot, because we have a hand that doesn't really get better to fold. Like when we raise, we usually have a purpose, right? And that is either to get value from worse or to get better to fold. But in this scenario, if we raise, I don't think we're really getting many better hands to fold. And I don't think should be a value raise, even though we could get value from some lower flash draws and so on. So because of, and also we have just really good odds to call. We will almost always realize equity when we call. And then if we raise, we also reopen the action, and he might just jam on us, which is not very unlikely on a double flash draw board that is so wet. So again, I think it's going to be close EV, but for all these reasons, I do prefer to go for a call. Okay, gonna wrap up the stream here. I hope everyone enjoyed. Again, if you are interested in getting in touch with me or with FNC Poker, feel free to join our Discord that you can find in the description. We are going to launch a really nice bootcamp soon, designed to help people escape the low stakes, and also we are currently getting people in our CFP. So yeah, if you're curious about any of those, make sure to join our Discord, and this stream will also happen next week. We are going to announce it there, so yeah, make sure not to miss it. Bye everyone.